fathers are not as active as our mothers. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, we talk about everything and anything under the sun, and we even react to it. So let's just get into it. So this woman says that someone says some parents don't like their kids at all. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my mom. I love my dad, my late dad, by the way. I love them. They're amazing. I mean, I was raised in an amazing home. But I believe it's the parenting style that makes us not like our parents, because we feel misunderstood by our parents. They feel like just because they gave birth to us, they raised us, they sheltered us, that means they automatically knows us. And it happens a lot. Does it mean that they don't like us? I would vouch 100% that my mom loves me, and she would do anything to make me happy. She would go above and beyond to ensure that I am happy, to ensure that things happen my way. She would ensure that even my safety is in priority of order. There are times where I can't even go by myself. I can't go anywhere by myself. I can't. Literally. If it's a new environment and she doesn't know it, she is going to take me there personally, you know? Do we have disagreements? Yes, it happens a lot with people who live together in the same household to disagree, you know? And it happens a lot because our mothers are put into pressure, you know? They are put into pressure, specifically our mothers, because even our fathers are not as active as our fathers. Our fathers are not as active as our mothers. A lot of pressure is put on mothers to perform motherly duties just because they are women. And at the same time, they have to cater to their husbands as wives. So they are tired. So I get what she's saying. But anyways, let's ditch the video and I'll see you in my next video.
There's parents out there who don't even like their kids. That's what one of you left on one of my last child-free posts, and that sort of blew my mind, and I don't know why, but I thought I would do a little research into it, and I found an entire subreddit devoted to parents who don't like their kids. There were parents complaining about how much they can't stand being touched all the time. That actually resonated with me because I'm not a touchy-feely, affectionate person. That totally makes sense when you have a couple of toddlers all over you, touching you all the time. There were a lot of people complaining also about how heartbreaking it is to have their stuff broken all the time. All the stuff that they have accumulated over the years, and they have toddlers who just come and break everything. Now that's a minor thing, but yeah, I get that. There were also a lot of posts going on about how disappointed people were in their children. I don't know. I think this says a lot about, I think the age that we're in. We all expect a lot, so on and so forth. We're all low on patience and tolerance. But it was just so eye-opening reading the posts from this group. I always felt that child-free people who say that parents don't even like their kids were just being mean, but my eyes were opened after reading this Reddit string. Is it called a string? The other most prevalent post was how tired all of these parents are. Like, so exhausted, so tired beyond belief that they can't function, they can't open their eyes, they can't take a minute to recover from the flu, recover from being sick. There were so many entries about just so desperately wanting to sleep in. Oh my God, I didn't realize so many parents out there were struggling.
This video is more for like third culture kids. Don't get me wrong, white people, you can stick around if you want. But I used to believe the statement that my parents hated me because I never felt like I could go to them and cry. And it wasn't until I left home and I went counselling, and the counsellor got me to do this exercise where I write everything about my parents before me. So every fact that I know about them. So I wrote everything I knew about my dad. I wrote about how he was the only child raised in Pakistan. All his brothers and sisters were in England. How he was alone. He didn't even know his brothers and sisters. How the family pressured him to get a degree. And he lived in the village. They were very poor. How he was meant, like academically, he wasn't the most intelligent person. How he saw his father beat his mum every day. And I wrote all these things down and I realized, damn, it must have been scary for him. He had to go to school on his own. He had to fend for himself. He had to get that degree on his own. And I realized he had a hard journey and he did all of that. And funny enough, he got the degree in the end. He became the first teacher in his village and he was a headmaster. And then he had to move to England to marry my mum and start a life here. And when he moved to England, he faced racism, hatred, abuse, and he had to start all over again. He had to be a cleaner. He went from a teacher and degree holder teacher to nothing in England. And I realized that must have hurt him a lot. And I think he never had anyone to run to or cry to. So when it came to having his own kids, I don't think he knew what he was doing. Now, before I genuinely hated my dad, but when I did that exercise, I have so much compassion now. And I have a new understanding for him. Don't get me wrong, he's not changed, and it doesn't mean I've forgotten the past. It just helps to forgive, to understand why someone does something. And I think I've applied that to myself. I've done terrible things in life, to others, to myself. And when I sit down and actually ask myself, why did you do those things? What was going on? And I analyze it, it helps me to forgive me as well. So I want you guys to try this exercise today. Sit down and just write everything you know about your parents before you were born, everything. Okay, their raising, their childhood, what they went through, what they had to endure. And maybe you might have a bit more compassion. Now, don't get me wrong, there are people out there that genuinely do hate their kids. And I honestly don't know what to say, and I apologize. But this exercise definitely helps you to just kind of bridge that gap and actually get you to realize that, oh, okay, this happened, I can move from this. So I hope this helps.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. If you have a chance, please watch the video that I just stitched. I have been a mom for 17 years. I have a 17-year-old and I have a 6-year-old. I am a single mom. I have a very demanding life and career. I also am a mom who suffers from mental health issues, trauma, PTSD, and also being extremely funny. The reason I decided to stitch this video is because when I came across it and I listened to what she was saying, that there's so many parents that get touched out where like they don't want to be touched. Me, especially when I was breastfeeding, there's so many parents that like their kids are breaking their stuff. And yes, it's a minor thing, like she said, but it's a real thing. Now I know all of those are just like, you know, kind of tossaways, right? For most people, it doesn't mean anything. But for those of you that don't have kids and maybe considering, or for parents, I hope that this just gives you a little insight into what it's like. And also for parents, gives you a little comfort and knowing that you're not fucking alone. When I became a mom at 20, I did not want to be a mom. I did not want to do it. The biological father wasn't around. And luckily, when my older son was 2 years old, I met my now ex-boyfriend, who is his adopted father. And I am so, so grateful that that man came into our lives because he is a fantastic father. And I 100% wouldn't have been able to be where I'm at without him and his family's support. Now, fast forward to when I had my 6-year-old, I was married, but unfortunately that marriage was very abusive, very tumultuous. And at the end of the day, I never anticipated being a single mom again, especially with a demanding career. But I'm so glad that I'm a single mom because it is far better than dealing with the shit we had to deal with. But nothing prepared me for the constant guilt and the worrying and just the spirals that you go through as a parent. It's not fucking fun. It's exhausting. Duh, right? But I'm constantly worrying, like, am I fucking them up? How can I parent when I need to be reparented? And I myself didn't have an easy childhood. My parents tried their best, but they were young and my childhood was not easy. So it's like trying to take my shit from my childhood and not put it on my kids, while also not trying to overcompensate and raise children that are brats because I'm trying to make up for whatever. Also knowing that you're shaping an entire human. What? And I know so many people out there are like, well, if it's hard, you should have had kids. But it's not always that easy. Some of us are promised love and support. But for those of us doing it alone, it's tough.
Amen 100 times to that. I was there and I know the feeling. Amen.
They're called immigrant parents. Now, don't get me wrong. I think they love us a lot more than most parents. I mean, at least that's what I've noticed. As long as I'm obedient and subservient to my parents and give them that level of respect, things are good. Because they don't really care who you are as a person, because individualism isn't something that Indians really do. So then you're in this weird limbo state where, like, I love my parents and they love me, but they don't know who I am. They don't know anything about me. They don't care to even know. Trust me, I've tried. And the funny thing is, they don't see anything wrong with that. And it might not be wrong, but it's put me in a weird position as an adult who bases his relationships on the interests I have, people respecting my identity, and so on and so forth. And as I've gotten older, it's just like the conversations are so stale. It's always about work, money, It just makes me feel very just like empty about the whole thing. But then again, I know they love me, so it puts me in this weird position. Is what it is, I guess.
My mom didn't like me, and she made it known day in and day out that she did not like me. She did not like me, the physical, emotional, mental being that I was. She wanted me, the idea, the pontificated notion of her own success vicariously lived through me. She wanted me, but as an appendage of her. And when parents say, oh, I'm so disappointed in how my kid turned out, notwithstanding, like, there are people who genuinely do make terrible decisions and their parents do try their best. Y'all require a lot from that 5, 10, 15-year-old, huh? These enormous amounts of pressure for them to just crumble. And when they do crumble under that pressure, you're all of a sudden disappointed in them. Side eye.
This is so true, and it happens in more ways and more often than you think. I haven't talked to my mother in about 7 or 8 years, and it's because she doesn't like me. She doesn't like what I turned out to be because she had a specific vision for me, and I didn't fit that, so I no longer fit in her family. And she's done that to her 3 eldest children already. She has 1 child at home left, and because we don't fit her vision, her what she thought we were going to be in her little plan, she completely ignores us. She doesn't even know that she's going to have her first granddaughter this year through me because she refuses to talk to me.
In that creator's video, she's talking about all the valid reasons why some parents do not like being parents. So go back and give that a listen. But if you want to hear somebody talk about this from an astrological, but also like a very like humanistic perspective, give this podcast a listen. It's an astrology podcast, but I listen to it all the time. It's episode 303. But yeah, in that episode, the host, like Jessica Lanyadoo, love her so much. But she talks about how some people just aren't like hardwired to like having people around or like being touched, which isn't necessarily like a parent thing or even about their children, but it's just like how they are like hardwired as people, right? Although if I'm remembering this episode correctly, I do believe that this parent specifically, she did like her daughter, but she didn't like being a parent, which I also think are like, you know, that's an interesting clarification to think about. But yeah, give these parents some grace because being a parent is not easy and it's not fun.